The laser cuffs bit into Kira Blackwood's wrists as she was marched through the Syndicate's underground facility. Her captors thought they'd caught a simple thief trying to steal from their vault. In reality, she was exactly where she wanted to be. The Nova Syndicate had grown bold in recent months, expanding beyond their usual territory in the Outer Rim. Their sudden interest in quantum technology research facilities had raised red flags with both the Galactic Security Bureau and the Bounty Hunters Guild. The bounties on the Syndicate's leadership had tripled, but no one could get close enough to collect. No one, until now. 2 guards flanked Kira as they led her deeper into the facility. Through her peripheral vision, she counted cameras, noted security checkpoints, and mapped every possible escape route. The facility had been built into an abandoned mining complex on Ceres VI, all twisting corridors and reinforced steel doors, perfect for keeping people out or in. "Move faster," the guard on her right growled, shoving her forward. Kira stumbled, letting herself fall harder than necessary. The motion allowed her to slip the second lockpick from her boot to her sleeve. The first one was already working on her cuffs, hidden by her jacket. They stopped at a heavy door marked Interrogation 3. Kira suppressed a smile. She'd studied the facility's blueprints for weeks. Interrogation 3 was directly above the main server room, exactly where she needed to be. The door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a sparse room with a steel table and 3 chairs. Behind the table sat Dominic Voss, the Syndicate's head of security. His cybernetic eye whirred as it scanned her, probably running facial recognition and scanning for weapons. He'd find nothing but her carefully crafted cover identity. Kira Blackwood, small-time thief with a string of moderately successful heists. "Sit," Voss commanded, gesturing to the chair across from him. The guards pushed her down and stepped back, but remained in the room. Kira let herself look nervous, but not terrified. A professional thief would be concerned about getting caught, but not panicked. "You have exactly 1 chance to tell me who sent you," Voss said, his organic eye studying her face, while his cybernetic one continued its scans. "The truth might keep you alive." Kira licked her lips, playing up her anxiety. "Nobody sent me. I work alone. Always have. And yet you somehow knew about our facility. Knew exactly how to bypass the outer security perimeter. That's not the work of a solo operator." "I've been casing this place for months," Kira replied, letting a hint of pride creep into her voice. "Your patrol patterns are predictable if you watch long enough. And your encryption. Please, I've seen better security on luxury yachts." The insult was calculated. Voss had personally designed the facility's security systems. His cybernetic eye flashed red, a tell she'd noted in her research. Ego was always the easiest weakness to exploit. "Search her again," he snapped at the guards. "Full scan this time." As the guards moved forward, Kira felt the last tumbler in her cuffs click into place. Now she just had to wait for the right moment. The guards would find the hidden compartment in her jacket, the one she wanted them to find. Inside was evidence suggesting she was working for a rival criminal organization. The next few hours would be unpleasant, but necessary. She needed them to believe she was breaking under interrogation. Needed them to think she was more valuable as a potential recruit than a corpse. The Nova Syndicate had a history of turning captured operatives, another weakness she planned to exploit. While the guards searched her, Kira's mind was already several steps ahead. The server room below would have the proof she needed about the Syndicate's true plans. The quantum technology facilities they'd been investigating weren't random targets. Something bigger was coming, and the bounty on that information would make her current discomfort more than worthwhile. Well, one of the guards said, finding the hidden compartment. "Boss, you're going to want to see this." Voss took the data cube they'd found, slotting it into a reader. His expression darkened as he reviewed its contents. "The Gemini cartel. You're bold. I'll give you that. They've been trying to infiltrate our operation for months." "I don't know what you're talking about," Kira protested, adding a tremor to her voice. "I found that cube in a dead drop. I don't know what's on it. Of course you don't, Voss smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Take her to holding cell 5. I need to make some calls. And signal Director Reeves. He'll want to handle this interrogation personally. Perfect. Director Reeves was third in the syndicate's hierarchy, with a separate bounty all of his own. The higher up the chain she could get, the better her eventual payout would be. The guards roughly pulled her to her feet. As they let her out, Kira allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Phase 1 was complete. She was in the facility, had caught the attention of the leadership, and would soon have access to their secure networks through the data terminal in holding cell 5, which she knew had a fatal firmware vulnerability. Now came the hard part, staying alive long enough to complete her mission. But then, the best bounties were never easy to collect. That's what made them worth the risk. Holding cell 5 was exactly as uncomfortable as Kira expected. A 6x8 box of reinforced durasteel, with a hard cot, a basic sanitation unit, and a data terminal that was supposed to be locked down to the basic text communications. The syndicate used it to monitor prisoners' correspondence, looking for signs of who they might be working with. They never expected their prisoners to know about the terminal's manufacturing defect. A production batch from 3 years ago had shipped with an exploitable flaw in the firmware. Most had been recalled, but some, like this one, had slipped through. Kira waited until the night cycle, when the guard rotation was thinnest. Her fingers, freshly bruised from Director Reeves' enhanced interrogation, moved swiftly across the terminal's interface. The trick wasn't avoiding the security. It was making her intrusion look like routine system noise. After 3 days of captivity, she'd already mapped most of the facility's network architecture. But tonight was different. Tonight, she'd intercepted something interesting. An encrypted transmission about Project Lighthouse. The cell door hissed open. Kira's hands dropped from the terminal as she turned to face her visitor. She'd expected another interrogation session. Instead, she found herself looking at Syndicate Director Reeves himself, flanked by 2 guards she hadn't seen before. Miss Blackwood, Reeves said, his cultured accent at odds with his brutal reputation. I believe we've been approaching this situation from the wrong angle. Kira maintained her wary expression, but her mind raced. This was coming sooner than expected. Sir, your skills are impressive. The way you breached our outer defenses, our technical team is still studying your methods, and your resistance to questioning has been. He paused, offering a thin smile. Remarkable. Just stubborn, I guess, Kira replied, letting exhaustion color her voice. More than stubborn, you're talented, disciplined, wasted on an organization like the Gemini Cartel. Reeves stepped into the cell. I'm offering you a choice. Continue our current relationship, which I assure you can become much more unpleasant, or put your skills to better use. Here it was, the opportunity she'd been waiting for, but accepting too quickly would be suspicious. Why should I trust you? She asked, forcing defiance into her tone. Because unlike the Cartel, we reward loyalty. And we're on the verge of something revolutionary. Reeves gestured to the guards. Remove her restraints. Miss Blackwood, walk with me. The next hour was a carefully choreographed dance of revelations and tests. Reeves led her through restricted sections of the facility, watching her reactions. Kira played her part perfectly, impressed but not overwhelmed, curious but not too eager. They ended in what appeared to be a research lab. Holographic displays showed complex quantum equations that Kira recognized from her pre-mission briefing. The Syndicate wasn't just interested in quantum technology. They were actively developing it. The old powers are failing, Reeves explained, his eyes reflecting the blue glow of the holograms. The Galactic Security Bureau, the Commerce Coalition. They're relics. What we're developing here will rewrite the rules of power in this sector. What exactly are you developing? Kira asked, genuine curiosity mixing with her affected interest. Insurance, a new voice answered. A tall woman with silver cybernetic arms entered the lab. Director Reeves speaks highly of your capabilities. Miss Blackwood, I am Dr. Isabella Vale, head of Project Lighthouse. Kira's pulse quickened. Vale wasn't just a scientist. She was number 2 in the syndicate's hierarchy, with a bounty that could buy a small moon. But something was wrong. Vale's presence here now violated everything Kira knew about the syndicate's security protocols. The quantum research facilities you've been monitoring, Vale continued, they're only part of the picture. We're not trying to steal their technology. We're proving ours is superior. Vale walked to a secured door at the back of the lab. Would you like to see? Warning bells screamed in Kira's mind. This was moving too fast. Either she'd badly misread the syndicate's desperation for skilled technical personnel, or the door opened, revealing a massive chamber dominated by a device Kira had never seen before. It hummed with barely contained energy, quantum particles dancing through its crystalline core. Beautiful, isn't it? Vale smiled. Of course, the real question is, what will the Galactic Security Bureau pay to know about it? Kira's blood froze. How had they? Your infiltration was masterful, Reeves said from behind her. But did you really think you were the only one who could exploit that terminal's firmware flaw? Guards materialized from hidden alcoves, weapons raised. Vale's cybernetic arms reconfigured into gleaming weapons. Now then, Agent Blackwood, or whatever your real name is, let's discuss what you're really doing here. Kira's mind raced through options. The quantum device behind Vale could be the evidence she needed, but only if she survived the next few minutes. She had 3 hidden weapons, 2 backup plans, and 1 desperate gambit that might turn this situation around. Time to find out if the galaxy's best bounty hunter was really as good as her reputation suggested. The next few seconds would determine whether Kira lived or died. She had one advantage. They thought she was GSB. They hadn't figured out she was a bounty hunter yet. Impressive security theater, Kira said, letting her practiced persona slip away. Her voice became harder, more professional. Though bringing me to your quantum device seems careless. Unless, she smiled as realization dawned. It's not operational yet, is it? Vale's cybernetic fingers twitched, a micro-expression that confirmed Kira's guess. Clever girl, but that doesn't change your situation, doesn't it? Kira's hand moved to her collar, where a hidden pressure switch waited. Because if I am GSB, I wouldn't be alone. And if this facility's location is compromised. She's bluffing, Reeves snapped, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Maybe, Kira agreed, but can you afford to be wrong? Your quantum device is worthless without the stabilization protocols, the ones you haven't managed to crack yet, the ones you've been failing to steal. Vale's eyes narrowed. And I suppose you know where we're going wrong. I might. This was the gambit, the moment where everything could go perfectly right or catastrophically wrong. But first, let's be honest with each other. You need what I know. And I. She let her gaze sweep the room meaningfully. I need to stay alive. A tense silence filled the chamber. Vale and Reeves exchanged glances. The guards maintained their aim, but Kira could sense their uncertainty. Lower your weapons, Vale ordered finally. But watch her carefully. She approached Kira, cybernetic arms shifting back to their neutral configuration. Talk. Your quantum core's frequency is off, Kira said, gesturing to the device. You're trying to match GSB protocols, but they release decoy specifications. The real resonance patterns are completely different. Prove it, Vale challenged. Give me access to your systems, and I will. This was the dangerous part. She needed that access, not just to maintain her cover, but to gather the evidence she came for. Hours later, Kira sat at a quantum engineering station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. She hadn't lied about the frequencies. She'd studied quantum engineering specifically for this mission. Around her, Vale's scientists watched with a mixture of suspicion and growing respect as she demonstrated exactly why the Syndicate's previous attempts had failed. The core is stabilizing, one of the scientists announced, wonder in his voice. power fluctuations are dropping to acceptable levels." Vale smiled, a predator's expression. "Well done. Perhaps we were too hasty in our suspicions. Though one question remains, if you're GSB, why help us?" "Who says I'm GSB?" Kira replied, not looking up from her work. "Maybe I'm exactly what I appear to be, someone who goes where the opportunity is best." The lie worked because it was wrapped in truth, the best kind of deception. "A mercenary." Reeves sounded skeptical. "A pragmatist," Kira corrected. "The Bureau has gotten sloppy, corrupt. Maybe it's time for a change." Another partial truth. The GSB's corruption was well known in bounty hunting circles. She could feel Vale studying her, weighing options. Finally, the syndicate leader spoke. "Continue working. But remember, one wrong move and—" An alarm cut through the air. Red emergency lights began pulsing. "Perimeter breach in Sector 7. A voice announced over the facility's comm system. "Multiple hostiles." "GSB," Reeves demanded, drawing his weapon. "No," Vale said grimly, checking the security feed. "Gemini Cartel. They followed your trail, Miss Blackwood. Or should I say, they followed exactly the trail you left for them." Kira allowed herself a small smile. Right on schedule. She'd arranged the cartel's attack before ever getting captured, knowing the syndicate would be looking for validation of her cover story. Sometimes the best way to sell a lie was to make your enemies prove it for you. "We should move the quantum device," Kira suggested, maintaining her calm. "The cartel can't be allowed to." "Already ahead of you," Vale interrupted. "Reeves, begin evacuation procedures. You," she pointed at Kira, "are coming with me. Either you're as valuable as you appear to be, or you'll make an excellent human shield." As they rushed through the facility's corridors, Kira's hidden transmitter sent encrypted bursts of data to her ship's computer. Everything she'd learned about Project Lighthouse. Every scrap of evidence about the syndicate's plans, all compiled into a neat package that would earn her a fortune in bounties. But the real prize was still to come, because what neither the syndicate nor the cartel knew was that this was all a prelude. The quantum device, the staged raid, the carefully crafted deceptions, they were just pieces of a larger strategy. The true game would begin during the evacuation. And if Kira played it right, she wouldn't just collect the bounties on the syndicate's leaders. She'd expose a conspiracy that went far deeper than anyone suspected. The facility shook with distant explosions. Somewhere above, the Gemini cartel was putting on exactly the show she'd paid them to perform. Now she just had to survive long enough to ensure everyone played their parts in the final act. The evacuation route led them deeper into the facility, through maintenance tunnels that didn't appear on any official blueprints. Vale led the way, her cybernetic arms configured for combat. 2 guards flanked Kira, while 3 more brought up the rear with the portable quantum core. Approaching secondary transport bay, Vale announced, "Status of the shuttle. Prepped and waiting." A voice responded through the comm. "But we've got problems." GSB signatures detected in orbit. Kira kept her face neutral, but her mind raced. The Bureau wasn't supposed to be here. Not yet. Someone had accelerated the timeline, which meant someone knew her real plan. The transport bay was smaller than the main hangar, housing a single sleek shuttle designed for stealth runs. As they entered, Kira spotted something that made her pulse quicken. A familiar face among Vale's security team. Agent Marcus Kane, GSB deep cover operative, and the only other person who knew her true identity. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. No recognition showed on his face, but Kira saw his hand drift to his weapon holster. The gesture confirmed her fears. Kane wasn't here as an ally. "Load the core," Vale ordered. "Quickly now. Miss Blackwood, you'll help secure it for transport." The quantum device had to be moved carefully. One wrong vibration could destabilize the core, triggering a localized quantum cascade. As Kira helped the technicians, she counted seconds in her head. The cartel would be breaching the upper levels now, which meant The facility's lights flickered. Emergency power kicked in. What was that? Reeves demanded. EMP burst. One of the technicians reported. Localized. Someone's trying to knock out our communications. Vale's cybernetic arms twitched with interference. Get us airborne. Now. That's when Kane made his move. In one fluid motion, he drew his weapon and fired. Not at Kira or Vale, but at the quantum core's containment unit. No, Vale screamed, but it was too late. The containment field flickered. Kira was already moving. She dropped and rolled as chaos erupted. Kane's true agenda became clear as he shot 2 more guards. He wasn't trying to arrest anyone. He was here to destroy evidence. The quantum core's hum changed pitch, becoming dangerous. Warning indicators flashed red. Core destabilizing. A technician shouted. Cascade imminent. Vale's cybernetic arms reconfigured, forming a complex array of quantum manipulation tools. Hold it steady. I can contain it. Kira had seconds to make a choice. The smart play was to run. Let Kane and Vale eliminate each other while she escaped with the data she'd already collected. But if the core detonated, the evidence she needed would be destroyed, along with her chance to expose the deeper conspiracy. She made her decision. Moving with practiced precision, Kira disabled the guard nearest her with a nerve strike, taking his weapon. One shot took down Kane's shields. A second caught him in the leg. Vale. Kira shouted. The resonance pattern. You need to reverse it. Vale's eyes narrowed with suspicion even as her cybernetic arms worked to contain the cascade. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only one who knows the real stabilization protocols, Kira replied. Kane isn't GSB. Not anymore. He's working for someone else. Someone who wants your research destroyed. Another explosion rocked the facility. Through the chaos, Kira could hear the cartel forces getting closer. Time was running out. The pattern now, Vale demanded. Kira's fingers flew across the nearest console, inputting the complex quantum frequency she'd memorized. It was a risk. This knowledge proved she knew far too much about quantum technology for a simple thief or GSB agent. But if it worked, the core's angry howl quieted. Warning indicators shifted from red to yellow. Remarkable, Vale breathed. You really do know more than you should. Story of my life, Kira replied. She kept her weapon trained on Kane, who was clutching his wounded leg. Now, about our mutual problem. Multiple hostile contacts approaching. One of the remaining guards reported. We need to move. Vale made a decision. Secure him, she ordered, indicating Kane. And get that core loaded. Miss Blackwood, it seems we have more to discuss. As Vale's people scrambled to prepare for launch, Kira allowed herself a small smile. The game had changed, but not in the way Kane's employers intended. Now she had proof of outside interference, proof that someone powerful enough to turn GSB agents was trying to shut down quantum research. That information would be worth far more than the bounties she'd originally planned to collect. But first, they had to survive the next few minutes. The cartel was closing in above. Kane's backup would be moving to cut off their escape, and somewhere in orbit, GSB ships were waiting to intercept them. Just another day in the life of the galaxy's most ambitious bounty hunter. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as Vale's team secured the quantum core. Through the viewport, Kira watched Kane being restrained, his expression promising vengeance. The facility trembled with distant explosions as the cartel's forces drew closer. Launch sequence initiated. The pilot announced. Atmospheric exit in 3 minutes. And the GSB ships. Vale demanded, her cybernetic arms still crackling with residual energy from containing the cascade. 3 cruisers in high orbit. They're moving to establish a blockade. Kira stepped forward. I can get us past them. Vale's laugh was sharp. You're either incredibly confident or suicidal. I know their blind spots, Kira replied. More importantly, I know which commanders are willing to look the other way. For the right price. It wasn't entirely a lie. Kira did know the GSB's weaknesses, but she had something better than bribed commanders. A plan 6 months in the making. The cartels breached Level 3. A guard reported. 2 minutes to intercept. Vale studied Kira for a long moment, then nodded to the pilot. Give her access to communications. As Kira worked the comm system, her hidden transmitter sent its final burst of data. Everything was in place. Now came the truly dangerous part. GSB cruiser adamant. She broadcast on a specific frequency. Authorization code. Sigma 97 Delta. The response was immediate. Authorization confirmed. Proceed with Protocol Sundown. Vale's cybernetic eye widened. That's a high-level clearance code. You're not just GSB, are you? No, Kira agreed, allowing herself a genuine smile. I'm really not. The shuttle lifted off as the cartel forces burst into the hangar, their weapons fire dissipating harmlessly against the shields. Through the viewport, Kira watched the facility growing smaller. Any moment now. Multiple explosions blossomed across the complex. Not the cartel's doing. These were precisely targeted detonations, destroying specific sections while leaving others intact. Sections containing evidence that would soon be discovered by GSB investigation teams. You planned this, Vale realized. All of it. The cartel attack, Kane's betrayal. You knew exactly how we'd react. Almost exactly, Kira corrected. Kane was supposed to wait for my signal. His employers must have gotten impatient. The shuttle broke atmosphere, approaching the GSB blockade. On cue, the cruisers began moving into an attack formation. They're powering weapons, the pilot warned. Wait for it, Kira said calmly. The lead cruiser fired, but not at them. Its weapons targeted the other GSB ships, catching them by surprise. In the chaos that followed, a sleek black vessel emerged from behind Cirrus VI's larger moon. My ride, Kira explained. Right on schedule. Vale's cybernetic arms reconfigured for combat. You still haven't explained why. The quantum core's containment unit clicked open, revealing nothing. The real core was safely aboard Kira's ship, switched during the chaos of Kane's attack. What they'd been protecting was an elaborate decoy. The galaxy's best bounty hunter, Vale whispered, recognition finally dawning. The Shadow Collector. In the flesh, Kira confirmed. And you're worth quite a lot to the right people, but the intel about who turned Kane, that's worth even more. Everything happened at once. Kira's ship locked on with a tractor beam as she triggered the shuttle's emergency protocols. Vale's cybernetic arms were caught in a localized EMP burst. The guards found their weapons mysteriously locked, and Kira was already moving. Here's the deal, she announced to the stunned shuttle crew. In about 3 minutes, the GSB will recover from their confusion. That cruiser captain's been well paid, but he won't fire on his own people forever. You have 2 options. Surrender to them, or come with me. With you? Vale managed through gritted teeth, her cybernetic systems rebooting. Someone powerful enough to turn GSB agents is trying to suppress quantum technology research. Don't you want to know why? Kira held out her hand. I'm not just collecting bounties anymore. I'm collecting answers. Vale looked at her disabled arms, then at her captured crew, and finally at the quantum device she'd spent years developing. A slow smile spread across her face. You magnificent bastard. I'll take that as a yes. Hours later, safely in hyperspace, Kira filed her mission report. The bounties on Vale and her top lieutenants would be collected, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of prisoners, she'd acquired allies. The evidence from the facility would expose corruption in the GSB while hiding the true scope of Vale's research. And somewhere out there, powerful people were realizing their plans had backfired spectacularly. They'd tried to suppress quantum technology development, but instead had created something far more dangerous, a partnership between the galaxy's most brilliant quantum researcher and its most resourceful bounty hunter. Kira smiled as she set course for her secure facility. The real hunt was just beginning. After all, the best bounties weren't always about capturing targets. Sometimes they were about changing the game entirely.